At a scientific level, why do you find someone beautiful? Like, is it only visual?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, it's not just visual, but vision is the dominant sense for beauty. So obviously, people are attracted to voices, right? And of course, that's something, it's not a universal, it's a cultural thing. Like British guys come to the U.S. to get laid because American women hear a British voice and they just, they want to, some British guy could say, "Oh, fuck me on the floor."
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I'm doing a Scottish guy, but
that's fair, dude. Well, the Scots,
right.
The Scots will do anything on the floor, first of all.
But, and it's just, we love British accents in the USA.
Come colonize this vagina type of thing.
That's what, this is a thing. So obviously voices can be attractive too, but yeah, visual is really important. Smell is important. I know you were talking about this with Huberman, right? Weren't you talking about the dirty T-shirt experiment?
He may have mentioned it. My brain falls off sometimes.
Well, But yeah,
I'm just wondering, like, is there, like, what elements go into that attraction, that feeling when you find somebody, I guess attractive is more the kind of what I'm looking for instead of beautiful.
I think really the main thing it gets down to is we're attracted to people who seem like if we were to mate with them, we would have children that would be likely to thrive and survive. So the most attractive faces are the most symmetrical faces. People who have smooth skin are more attractive than people who have mottled skin, right? And there are various other things that go there. In other words, things that signal fitness, and I don't mean fitness in the sense of like going to the gym. Mm-hmm. I mean fitness in the sense of being able to survive and get your genes into the next generation, sort of the Darwin way of saying the word.
Yeah, I guess that's
fitness.
what I mean.
Those are the things we find beautiful. When you're saying I find someone beautiful, most of the time you're saying, yeah, you look like somebody who would be good to mate with and have my children with. Mm. And the thing is, if you're gay, you still have that feeling even if you're not making children with people. In other words, that's such a fundamental human thing about attractiveness that these fitness signifiers like being symmetrical, having clear skin, being tall, being well-muscled, these sorts of things are, things we find beautiful, even if you aren't thinking about mating with that person.
Do we have nerves in our butt, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've got nerves in all your skin, but it turns out that, in the places where people like to get sexy, you got a special kind of nerve. And so, the lips, the genitals, the butthole, right? So these places aren't just random. They're a special kind of skin. And so for years and years and years, people said, well, how come you can have sexual sensations from certain places on your body, but not others? Like,
that's a good point.
The back of your hand doesn't feel that sexy. End of your nose, not that sexy. But, your genitals, sexy. Your lips, maybe your butthole, sexy, And so why is that? And nobody really knew the answer until there was a fundamental discovery, and it actually started in the 1850s. There was a German anatomist named Krauss, and he took sections of the skin of the penis and the skin of the clitoris, and he looked at them under a microscope, and he said, well, there's this one kind of little nerve ending, and it's kind of like wiggly like this, and it has a little capsule around it, and I see a lot more of them here than I do in other places in the body. And maybe this is the special nerve ending that makes sexual sensation.
Oh, that's interesting.
And people said, well, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. We don't really have a way of testing it. We didn't have a way of like specifically activating those ones and not other ones, turning them on or turning them off. And this was like a total mystery. But there were some things that really made it seem possible. So, all right. So like if we're going to talk about dicks here, like if you talk to most guys and you say, on your dick, what is the most very sensitive part of the dick? Well, most guys will say, well, like the ridge right around the head of the dick, what's called the corona, that's a real hot spot. And the underside of the dick, particularly that kind of elastic tissue towards the bottom, is called the frenulum, is what the doctors call it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That baseboard or whatever.
Right. These are like the hottest, sexy hot spots on a guy's dick. All right. And it turns out that's where the very largest number of these Krauss corpuscle endings are. So, oh, well, that seems like likely to be true, but is it really true? But a couple of years ago, a buddy of mine named David Ginty at Harvard figured out how to specially label and then electrically turn on or turn off these endings in laboratory mice. And he proved that these really are the nerve endings that are involved in sexual sensation. And so—
Wow, mice are partying, huh?
Well, mice got what we got, right? I mean, they've got, mice have sex, mice have orgasms. They do what we do.
Yeah, and they're willing to be tested too.
Well, they don't get to say no.
I've never heard one complain, to be honest with you.
And so this brings up some things so people always joke about how young men come really fast. Right? Well, that's for a lot of different reasons and, being nervous, it being new and all that. But part of the reason is actually not just these Krauss endings, but all the different endings in your skin. From about 20, as you age, you lose about 1% of them every year. So you get less and less sensitive in your skin as you get older.
Why?
Yeah, well, we don't really know why. That's a good question why, but this seems to happen. It happens in humans. It happens in other critters. And so part of the reason why old guys don't come as soon and sometimes have a problem coming at all is because fewer and fewer of the nerve endings that trigger orgasm are there. You lose them as you age.
Yeah.
The same thing happens, interestingly, with nerve endings for pain. So you might have heard, for example, that like old folks that are confined to bed get bed sores. Well, and you might think, well, why? And they get it from just laying in one position and wearing a hole in the skin. You would think, oh, God, that would hurt like hell. Why don't they just move to a different spot? And the reason is, as you get older, you not only lose the sexy nerve endings and the fine touch nerve endings, you lose the pain nerve endings too.
They don't feel it.
They don't feel it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's why. Dude, even if I ejaculate or whatever, it's like a couple mealworms getting out of a sleeping bag, I mean, it's definitely things change,
Things change.